Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first meeting of the Prince George's County House Delegation for the 2022 legislative session. For the record, my name is Delegate Nick Charles, Chairman of the Prince George's County Delegation, and I would like to bring the January 21, 2022 meeting to order. The time is now 9:02. First, I would like to thank all the members of the public who are tuned in and those who have joined us this morning. We appreciate all of you for taking your time to join us today. Just as a reminder to everyone, we are live streamed, so please make sure you are muted. And everyone go on mute, please. If you're not muted, please go on mute. When you're talking, that's when everyone should end up coming off of mute. And for all questions, please use the Zoom hand raising tool to be acknowledged. Before we get to our special guests, I want to at least take this point of privilege and let all of our delegation members know about two losses that we recently had. One of our members, former members of the Prince George's County House Delegation and from District 25, former delegate Mike Arrington, his father has recently passed away. Henry T. Arrington Sr., he will be remembered on January 27th at First Baptist Church of Glenarden, the Bricey Road location. And the viewing will be from 9:30 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. The celebration will be at 11 a.m.
Thursday. So I just
Trey, can you go on mute? John, can you go on mute? Thank you, everyone. And in addition to that, I'd like to take a moment of silence for not only Mr. Arrington, but also for our delegation whip, Andrea Harrison. She too has lost her father-in-law. And so I'd like to take this opportunity to have a moment of silence as we remember these two individuals from our community and pray with our delegation members. And my apologies, it was her mother-in-law, not father-in-law. But thank you, everyone, for taking that time to acknowledge both of these losses. And now, before we get on to our special guests, I'd like to call on our newly appointed delegation whip, Delegate Harrison, to start us off by leading us in prayer.
Well, good morning, everyone, and good morning to all of those whom I've not had the opportunity to see this year. Happy New Year to you, and welcome to the first Prince George's County Delegation meeting. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for mentioning my mother-in-law. We called her the original Queen Bee. Her name was Queen Victoria Harrison, and so thank you so much for that. But if you would, please bow with me. Father, we come to you right now and blessing you, thanking you, Father, for this day, one that we've never seen before, and we don't know what it holds, but we know that you hold us. And Father, we just ask that as we move forward in this meeting, that you will bless everything that is going forward, that you would just help us as elected officials to serve the residents of Prince George's County and our constituents in the way that you want us to serve them, not how we want to serve them, but how you want us to serve them, oh God. And then we just ask that you would just continue to bless us, watch over each and every one of us, keep our families safe from all hurt, harm, and danger. Bless everyone and their families, friends, and loved ones who are on this call right now. And just continue to help us to be the servants that you've called us to be, each and every one of us, because even if we're not elected, Lord God, we can continue to serve in our own respective ways. So we thank you for this. We bless you, we honor you, and we lift this prayer up to you in the mighty and matchless name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Delegate Harrison. Our prayers are with you too. And now I'd like to introduce our three special guests who none of them need any introductions, really. We have our amazing county executive, Angela Alsobrooks. We have the phenomenal chair of our county council, Calvin Hawkins. And then we have the newly appointed chair, the vice chair, Sydney Harrison. So we appreciate you three for making time for us this morning to bring us up to speed on everything that's happening with the county right now and how we could be of any help. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the county exec and let her take the floor. And we're going to hold all questions for until the end of all three presentations. We won't be here all morning, everyone. So once we're done, we'll be moving on to actual business of the delegation. But I'm going to open the floor up to the county exec. Madam County Exec, the floor is yours.
So good morning, Mr. Chair. I know the county executive is logging on right now. Had a little bit of a technical difficulty on her end, but they worked through that. I don't think she has joined us just yet. So if you wanted to start with the council chair and then come back to the county executive, that would be all right.
We can do that. Mr. Chairman, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, and good morning to my good friends, especially Chair Charles, Vice Chair Ivy and Williams, and all the members of the Prince George's County House delegation. I don't see Senator Benson, but to Senator Chair Benson and the members of the Senate delegation, good morning to you as well. Vice Chair Harrison and I want to thank you for the opportunity to address you on behalf of our colleagues on the County Council. But I also want to recognize three former members of the County Council in the persons of Andrea Harrison, Mary Langman, and our good friend Karen Toles, as well as that one who serves on the Senate, Obie Patterson. Thank you for continuing your service to those who live in Prince George's County. I see Council Member Todd Turner is with us, and I want to recognize him and all the other council members who have joined us today. The council look forward to working with all of you as our General Assembly Committee convenes for the first time next Tuesday, January the 25th. Our staff and our consultants will work closely with the General Assembly to advance the interests of Prince George's County. While we have yet to hear from our county executive, she will speak on the joint priorities and her priorities, and we look forward to echoing and supporting what she speaks about to you this morning. We are certain that she will talk about addressing healthcare and housing disparities in Prince George's County, which this pandemic has exacerbated, and you all know very well what we are experiencing because you are a member of Prince George's County. We look forward to meeting our continuing education and operating and capital. We look forward to meeting our continuing operation and capital education funding needs like Carowin and the public-private partnership for school construction, investment in an expansion and beautification of our transportation infrastructure to support our economic development goals and the other items outlined in the joint letter. Although the joint legislative priorities letter totals 5 pages, it is definitely not an exhaustive list of all the issues of importance in our great county. The County Council supports the delegation's effort to provide funding and effective policy for police reform, enhancement of mental health service, and many of the important issues to be addressed by this General Assembly. And we are grateful that our good friend and champion of minority business and Black businesses in Prince George's County, Delegate Darrell Bonds, is remaining courageous in his view, his voice, and his opinions about why it's important to elevate and level the playing field for minority businesses in Prince George's County and throughout the state. I'd like to mention one specific issue, which is vehicle, bicycle, pedestrian safety. The county's legislative and executive branches have worked collaboratively on the Local Vision Zero program to achieve zero fatalities and serious injuries on our roadways by the year 2040. Through the comprehensive Vision Zero approach, we are pursuing safety enhancements in many areas, including photo enforcement, protected bicycle lanes, and the coordinated enforcement and penalties for dangerous activities such as racing and stunts with automobile, dirt bikes, and off-road vehicles. Thank you, Mary Lehman, for the legislation you are proposing this session to address many of those issues. I want to express our sincere appreciation to the delegation as well for the process of implementing authority provided last year to enhance our speed camera program. And especially to you, Delegate Andrea Harrison, for being the primary sponsor on that legislation. The council looks forward to continuing collaborative efforts to make our roads safer, and we are ready to lend our support whenever possible. I'm going to bring this to a close and turn to the Vice Chair of the Prince George's County Council, if that's okay, Mr. Chair, and thanks again to all of you. I firmly believe your success is our success, and I look forward working with you and the Prince George's County Council and our county exec and federal partners as we move Prince George's County forward. Again, Mr. Chair, and to all the delegates, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you this morning.
Thank you so much, Council Chair Hawkins. Yes, indeed. We will now open the floor to the Vice Chair, and then after the Vice Chair, I see the County Exec is on. Then we'll close out with the County Exec. Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Chair Charles and Chair Benson and all the members of the Prince George's County House and Senate delegations. I join Chair Hawkins and the County Executive also Brooks in thanking you for the opportunity to address the delegation on behalf of our colleagues of the Prince George's County Council. As you know, it's been a tough setting for all of us during this pandemic, and I just wanted to take a few moments to highlight a couple of the highlights and points of our legislative priorities. My first point is that we must remain vigilant in our efforts to respond and recover from the pandemic. Additional funding is needed for increased COVID testing as the Omicron variant continues to spread so rapidly, even among the vaccinated and boosted. As we continue to encourage our residents to protect themselves, to provide continued access to vaccines and booster shots, we have taken meaningful steps to increase the capacity of our county's healthcare infrastructure. While our healthcare professionals are doing the best with the existing resources, we know there is significant amount of unmet needs for medical services in our county. We look forward to joining you in expressing the need to expand the capacity of our hospitals and community-based health centers. Secondly, just as the pandemic has taken a tremendous toll on the physical and mental health of our citizens here in the county, the health crisis has also placed many residents at risk of losing their homes due to mortgages and rental arrearages. We must continue to provide emergency financial assistance to settle the arrearages and prevent eviction proceedings. As we continue to stem the tide in the housing challenges caused by this pandemic, we must continue also to invest in our housing programs that focus on effectively utilizing existing properties, as well as spurring future development in designated areas in the county. Finally, I want to express the council's gratitude for your help in providing clarification that resulted in the adoption of the county's new zoning ordinance, which goes into effect on April 1st, 2022. The delegation's deliberate and inclusive process provided another example of successful collaboration between the Prince George's County state and county elected officials. Thank you again, Mr. Chair, for giving me the opportunity to speak before you this morning.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. We definitely look forward to working with you guys. And now we're going to open the floor up to our amazing county executive, Ms. Angela Also Brooks.
Thank you. So good morning. Good morning. It's such an honor to be here this morning. I want to first thank Chair Nick Charles for his leadership. It's been amazing. I also want to thank Vice Chairs Julian Ivy and Nicole Williams, and thank the entire delegation for the opportunity to discuss our goals for 2022 to you today, with you today. I'd also like to thank Chair Hawkins, the People's Champion, as well as thank our Vice Chair, Sydney Harrison, for their leadership and partnership. Really do appreciate the work that we've been able to do together. And so it is a pleasure to be here with our entire House delegation today, and to thank all of you for your engagement even prior to session starting. I know that we have been all hard at work preparing for this session, and I have to say that we are well positioned to get the job done for our residents. I'd like to take a few minutes to outline our legislative priorities. This year, you should know that we are focused on key areas. These areas include transportation, economic development, housing, healthcare, and quality of life improvements for our residents. Our transportation goals include the Arena Drive interchange. We want to make sure that the state keeps the $8 million that has been appropriated for this project in the final state consolidated transportation plan. This interchange will improve access to our hospital while also helping us to support the new development that we're seeing happening in downtown Largo. We also have several transit-oriented development goals for the upcoming session. The CTP includes funding for the interchange project at Greenbelt Metro, and we want to continue to work to make sure that that funding also remains in the final CTP. In addition, we're going to seek funding for transportation projects around metro stations in New Carrollton, Largo, and Branch Avenue. Last year, many of you may recall that we were able to secure, and I want to thank you for all the hard work that helped this to happen, $17.6 million for our Blue Line corridor. This year, we aim to secure an additional $21.4 million to continue road infrastructure improvements, which includes a complete streets project, bike lanes, walking paths, and a street grid for developable parcels. We must also continue to make progress on road safety. While there are several projects underway to improve vehicle and pedestrian safety, we're going to continue to seek additional funding to improve overall safety for both pedestrians and drivers. This includes continuing to seek state funding for additional interchanges and bicycle lanes along Route 210 and widening Maryland 197 between Route 50 and 450. Now, in the economic development and housing arena, we're going to continue to support legislation that helps us achieve an important goal. And this is a goal that I have spoken very passionately about with so many of you. It's a goal to share by our community, and that is bringing high quality grocers into all of our communities, especially those that are underserved. Now, while we'll continue to use the tools that we have available to us in our toolbox to attract grocers, we've found that tax incentives, we have tax incentives, we've used other tools, but those tools have simply, to this point, not been enough to achieve the goals that we've set out. We need the ability to compete with our neighbors. We are in a very competitive region, neighboring the District of Columbia and Virginia, that have an important tool in their toolbox that we do not have. That tool, and this tool also exists in Montgomery County, and that is the tool to be able to have a license to sell beer and wine. And this tool will help us, we believe, make a stronger business case for being able to attract those grocers into our county. They've expressed to us that there's a 2 to 3% profit margin that is very narrow. But in order to be competitive, we need to expand the tools that we have available to us to be able to achieve this important goal. What we know is the pandemic hit Prince George's County hard. And in part, we know that the reason that so many of our residents were as sick as they were and died at the rates that they did was because of the comorbidities that have really plagued our community: high blood pressure, diabetes, kidney disease. And we know that many of our residents had help in getting sick, and that was because they did not have access to healthy food. We have the highest percentage of low income, low access areas in our region at 15%, and more than half, 55% of all of our restaurant options in Prince George's County our fast food. And so I want to thank Delegate Fisher and Delegate Lewis for continuing to lead the effort on this important legislation. And I also want to thank each member of our delegation for the work that we did together in 2021 to get the legislation to a place where we were able to move it forward. I look forward to working with all of you to continue to advocate on behalf of this legislation this year. Now, to support the county's equitable economic growth vision, and that's what this whole vision is. It's an equitable economic growth vision. And in fact, I might add and tell you that everything we have described is our effort to bring more equity to our county, to really correct many of the inequities and injustices that have occurred here over the years, as well as to give us a real chance at growing our economy during this really transformative time, not only in our county and state, but in our country. And so there are two proven programs that we're working to preserve, and I want to discuss them with you. And these programs aim to preserve affordable housing and add additional housing and homes in our county. So we're seeking state funding for our right of first refusal program and our housing investment trust fund. These are two proven programs. They are already working to preserve affordable housing in Prince George's County. What we know, and you'll hear Angie Rogers, who is our Deputy of Economic Development, say it all the time, is there is no successful economic development that does not include affordable housing. And so adding additional funding from the state would allow us to expand these important programs we have to make sure that as we grow and prosper, we want every Prince Georgian to have the opportunity to afford to live here. And so we're seeking state funding also in another important area, that's the area of healthcare, to increase the number of community-based health centers in Prince George's County. While we understand that additional funding may not be available this year, we know that this is a priority for the state in future years. So we want to make sure that we have the discussions that will ensure the funding for these centers to increase in coming years. We also want to expand the number of community-based health centers as we open new schools. Since these important health centers have the ability to serve students in our schools and the surrounding communities. Our health department is working on an analysis to provide more detailed numbers in terms of how much funding we will need to operate additional centers. But what I can tell you is that it costs about $1.2 million annually to operate the 4 centers that we currently have. And there are certainly startup, one-time capital costs as well to open each one. And so we look forward to sharing this information with you during session. We are also continuing to talk to the University of Maryland Medical Center system regarding the possibility of seeking state funding for a comprehensive opportunity assessment at our regional hospital. This will allow us to identify all of the areas of concern for our hospital and discover opportunities to improve the hospital system that have not yet been identified by the University of Maryland Medical System. In addition, the comprehensive opportunity assessment will assess readmission rates to determine if any poor quality of care is leading to readmission. It will also help us assess the payer and provider relationship, helping to improve billing and collections, which in turn provides funding to the hospital for full-time employees and capital improvement projects. This assessment will also help ensure the hospital operates more efficiently, providing the highest quality of care for our residents. Now, I also want to talk about one other issue that is really important to us, and that is supporting a new effort to fund a request for a cancer center at our regional facility. Now, as you all know, I'm talking about how we bring more equity to our county. And what I should tell you we have discovered is that 40% of all of our residents who become sick and seek treatment for cancer have to leave Prince George's County to get that care. We also know that Prince George's County in 4 distinct categories, if we talk about colorectal cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer, and prostate cancer, have rates of those particular illnesses that exceed the state average as well as exceed national averages for those kinds of cancers. What I should tell you we have discovered is so it becomes really important to us. All of our residents who become sick and seek treatment for cancer have to leave Prince George's County to get.
Ivan, you need to mute yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to ask that everyone mute themselves if they're not talking. The county executive is the one talking right now, so that means everyone else should be muted. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. And so what this means is that we have a real opportunity to bring yet another resource to our county that will allow us to care for those in our county who need cancer care. And so we ask for your support as well. We're told that the cost of it, we've met with the hospital system, is $67 million. And I should tell you that these major programs exist in other jurisdictions. So we're not asking for anything. It does not exist in other jurisdictions of our size. That it's in Howard County, Montgomery County, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, all have these cancer care centers. And so we're asking for your support in making sure that we get the funding that is necessary to bring that to us as well. Now, as we discussed when we met in December, we also want to continue our work on beautification across our county. And I know that the Chair Charles is extremely serious about this issue. For anyone who's had an opportunity to talk with him, you will know he's been on it. He's talked about potential legislation that will require the state to publish their litter pickup schedules so we can see when they'll be in our county and how often. The main thing we need to do, regardless of how we decide to do it, is to ensure that state litter collections are equitable. And we want to coordinate with the state, with state resources. With information on their plans, we can also better deploy county resources for litter collections and road cleanings. And we're also continuing to push for legislation that creates a centralized, confidential database aimed at ending the physical and mental abuse suffered by seniors at the hands of caregivers. This legislation is extremely important to us as well. This, as you know, in previous sessions, this legislation gained much support. And this year, with the support of the Maryland Department of Health, we believe that we will be able to get it done. And so I want to thank Delegate Fisher. I also want to thank Senator Benson, who have really continued to champion this important legislation. Just a few additional priorities, which I want to touch on very briefly. Our capital improvement budget request includes $4 million for the remaining state-funded portion of the amphitheater. The request also includes $12.4 million for improvements to the Showplace Arena and Equestrian Center. You all may have heard that we were really fortunate to be able to attract the Washington International Horse Show, which is a huge feat to Prince George's. And we want to be able to not only retain that particular show, but to attract additional shows in the future years. And so improvements to the Equestrian Center will be important. We also want to be supportive of any WSSC requests for funding as they recover from pandemic-related losses. And lastly, we support the non-school use of public facilities bill. This will allow the public to use public school facilities for community purposes. Practically, this will help address a problem that many of our local sports teams face: long drives to games and practices, and sometimes even having to play, quote, home games in other jurisdictions. So this bill will help ensure that local athletes can play and practice right here in their home in Prince George's County. So I thank you so much again for having me this morning. And I'm just looking forward to working with each of you. We have a number of our team on the line today who will be present to help us answer some of the questions that you may have. But I certainly want to thank you for your leadership. I'm so proud to have the chance to serve with each of you. I know that this is going to be one of the most successful sessions we have ever seen. The needs are great, but our will is great as well. So thank you so much again. Hand it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Madam County Executive. Thank you so much to the chair and the vice chair of the County Council. I appreciate you all for taking the time, and all of the issues that you laid out are extremely important issues that we all share and believe that we need to bring these things back to Prince George's County to keep moving us forward. We do have some questions from the delegation members, and I will call them in order of the hands that are raised. And if anybody else has any questions, please raise your hands and you'll be acknowledged. So we're going to start off with Delegate Mary Lehman, then we're going to go to Delegate Alonzo Washington, then to Delegate Valentino Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Madam County Executive. I am thrilled to hear your plan to ask the state for help with funding the right of first refusal law. I actually got that law passed when I was on the council. It's an excellent one. We really need it to preserve affordable housing. Can I ask what is the ask going to be? Is it going to be a one-time ask for a specific amount of money? Would it be a cost sharing arrangement? How does that look? Can you explain that?
Thank you so much, Delegate Lehman. So $15 million is the ask that we are making in this session is an additional $15 million. And I think Angie Rogers is on the line. Angie, is there anything you want to add about the outlook for outcoming years? But this year, the request is for $15 million.
Yeah, the only thing I will add is that, the county has seeded a smaller amount of funds for right of first refusal, but the number of transactions that are coming before us is really astounding. We got the program up and fully operational at the beginning of last year. Have a bench of well-qualified, both private and nonprofit developers to help us exercise that right. We have an RFP open now to expand that bench just because of the number of opportunities that are coming our way. So I think additional funding that will help us help our developer partners really compete with the private market, which is what they're trying to do in these preservation transactions is needed.
Excellent. Very quick follow-up, Mr. Chair. Are you trying to target certain parts of the county, or are you just looking at properties as the opportunities arise? You did answer my first question, which is why now? It sounds like a lot of properties are about to come on the market, but is it strategic in terms of geography at all, or are you just reacting as properties come on the market?
So County Exec, I can take that one as well. So the law allows us to exercise that right really on any, as property that comes for sale that's above 20 units in the county, but we're really focused on areas along the Purple Line and around our other transit stations where the market is heating up and really prompts a need for these kinds of preservation activities.
Thank you. That is so exciting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate Lehman. Delegate Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Madam County Executive and County Council members. Madam County Executive, it seems like you just covered everything our residents have been asking for for such a long time. So I'm so appreciative of your agenda this year. It looks amazing. And I know, I don't speak for our delegation, but at this moment, you're doing an amazing job. And so thank you for all the work that you're putting in. And I haven't seen a county executive really be so upfront about affordable housing and quality affordable housing, and what you're talking about preserving and actually enhancing in the county. So I'm really appreciative of that. Just like Mary Lehman, my questions is similar to Mary Lehman on the affordable housing piece. When I was working on the council, I helped create the Housing Trust Fund. And it hasn't been funded for a long time. And I wonder how much money is actually in there from the county right now and how much money we need to put in there. And then I guess just like Mary Lehman, what's the ask number for us? Because you did make that as one of your requests to make sure we add additional funding to the Housing Trust Fund. And then, Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the council after the county executive response to this one.
So first of all, and I'll let Angie add some more context to it, but I thank you so much, Delegate Washington. This is a team sport. So I do want to emphasize that to everybody. I thank you so much. We have laid out the agenda, but we just rely so heavily on this team who has been able to get it done again and again and again. So I just thank you for, for the buy-in that we've gotten. And again, this is a vision that has come together really also in a collaborative fashion that we've heard from each of you. We know what things all of us value together. And so we're really excited to bring it forward. Angie will add more, but I know, again, the $15 million on right of first refusal, I think about $4 million is what I'm thinking in the Housing Investment Trust Fund. But Angie, you can add some more dollar amounts to it.
Sure. Actually, I think our request is for another 15 for the Housing Investment Trust Fund.
Okay.
So,
15.
Washington, as you duly noted, the trust fund has not been seeded to date with a sustainable source of funding. The county council took action in their last session to provide a sustainable source for the trust fund that will begin in FY23. And it's going to pull from deed recordation and transfer taxes. We think the amount for FY23 is going to be about $10 million. And so the ask at the state level will really amplify what the local funding source. But I will say that the pipeline that has been built up of transactions that will pull on the Housing Investment Trust Fund still far outstrips even with the local and state funding together.
No, Mr. Rogers, I think you're absolutely right. That sustainable funding is so important, and tying it to an actual revenue source is important, which a lot of our localities in the state already do. And DC does as well, right, in Northern Virginia, just so it's always continually funded as a source of income. So I'm glad the council has been working on that, and look forward to seeing how much more money. And you said 10 million, so looking forward to that 10 million, and hopefully the state can match it at some point. We do have the National Economic Development Fund at the state level that only provides funding for inside the Beltway communities, and when I look at the DHCD from the state provide, those grants to these projects, Prince George's County seems to always fall short on that list. And I wonder if we need to talk about what's the strategy to make sure that we get the funding as much as we can from that project. And we can talk about that offline. For the council, Mr. Chairman, I've been contacted by multiple of my residents that live in the College Park, Riverdale Park area about this Guilford property. And there now is going to be a sector plan, the Delphi sector plan, that's going to be approved by the council. I wonder if there's a opportunity still for revisions to that sector plan to protect the Guilford Woods property. District 22 as well as District 21 delegation has come out in support of preserving that property. And I wondered if we could pause on that, which is the request of a lot of my residents that live in that area. And so I wanted to ask you that question, Mr. Chairman. Is there an opportunity for that?
Thank you. Go ahead.
That's for you, sir. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Delegate Washington, and belatedly, you've joined the club. Glad to see you're part of us. Your colleague, Delegate Lehman, spoke Tuesday about that very same issue. That matter has to go back to the planning board, and then they will take those comments and send it back to the county council for action. But I believe the number of individuals that showed up, especially the students, really expressed their concern about that Guilford property and what it means to that community. So not only will we take it under advisement and look at it, I will personally reach back out to you to give you some idea of where the council is headed on that, way before we get there. But I've taken what you said and I hear you. I heard Delegate Lehman on Tuesday, and I would ask, we have Council Member Turner on the line. If he, Mr. Chair, could just add to what I said in my response to Delegate Washington's inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Prince George's House Delegation. Good to see everyone. I will say this, we have to tread lightly here because this is we just conducted the public hearing, and technically we're only supposed to hear stuff That was part of the public hearing. It has to be on the record, as my former colleagues remember. So as the chair has correctly indicated, we had the joint public hearing. It'll go back to the planning board for their recommendation. That recommendation will be forwarded to the district council for review. So it's a little premature, but obviously we had a great turnout at the public hearing and expressed their views with respect to that particular property. So that process will continue. And if I can, Mr. Chair, I just respond to Mr. Washington's first question about the Housing Trust Fund and the efforts particularly related to housing. As he is well aware, we've had, and Delegate Holmes, I know, has been an active part of this, as well as others, the Housing Opportunities for All work group, which came out of the actual report that we did for the first time in Prince George's County for a comprehensive housing strategy, which targeted the right of first refusal, which had been passed by the council before, as Ms. Lehman indicated, as well as the Housing Trust Fund. So we are ramping up those things as resources are provided, and we look forward to obviously the partnership with the state to be able to assist us in making sure that housing is affordable for everybody in Prince George's County, no matter what your source of income. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, open up to Delegate Valentino Smith.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the delegation, and thank you, County Executive and County Council, for being here. As the County Executive said, it's a team sport and she leads us. We're her players, and the county should be really enthusiastic about the strength and the power and the talent that we have going in to accomplish what we need to for them. So for the chair of the County Council, I just had, I guess, a question, but a request. So each session that we go into and the priorities, we work on education and everything that we can do for education, and we share in you with that funding responsibility. We'll bring home as much as we can, and you'll work on it. This session, we're being asked to review the governing priorities and how the board should continue to be governed or not. The County Executive has put together a group that's worked very hard and prepared a lot of different recommendations. And the Education Committee met and has looked at it. And, you know, it's a difficult, complex, and challenging issue, one for which we need the County Council to work with us too. And so going forward, if you could work with that piece of legislation, look at the good work of the County Executives Group, and please come and work with us in time so that we can work together and jointly as we make the decisions. We all want what's best for the students, the teachers, and the schools. And so I would just ask that you make that part of your priorities and come and work with us in time on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm totally baffled by that, but we've been working with the county exec, with her task force. We look forward to working with you all. And if I may contact you, if not today, early next week, just to ensure that I understand what you're asking. But yeah, we're all in this together. You said it best. Delegate, county exec is the lead. We're here to support and work with all of you. And I promise you, we'll be there as a council to support, but thank you for that. And
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I was not meaning to intimate that you haven't been. I was just creating the energy for the public that we're all working together. I know it's a priority. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Delegate Valentino Smith. I open it up to Delegate Holmes now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam County Executive, I want to echo everyone else's discussion about what a wonderful job you're doing. And I know how difficult and hard the work is sometimes, but you're making it look very easy. That's pretty good. Chair Hawkins mentioned earlier housing disparities, and most of you probably recognize my wheelhouse is pretty much housing. I have submitted to you a piece of legislation that I have that's looking at appraisal bias. I see that Kim Taylor is on the line as well, and she and I and other members have been participating in appraisal bias, particularly within Prince George's County. And some of you may have seen one of the many at least 3 thus far, television interviews on WUSA 9 about appraisal bias in Prince George's County. And Madam County Executive, I look forward to seeing that report coming out of the Legislative Committee sometime this week. My question, however, is in reference to land bank. You know that I've had legislation approved many, many years ago about land banking authority. And I see that Ray Skinner is on the line as well. Only 2 jurisdictions have expressed interest in land banking, Somerset County and Prince George's County. I do know that there was some discussion about land banking in the past, and I was wondering if that land bank funding might be put back onto a priority list, recognizing there are limited funds, but I think land banking might be something that might assist us with our affordable housing efforts. Thank you, Madam County Executive.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Delegate Holmes. And I want to thank you also for all your leadership on this issue. You're right, you have been steadfast in it. So I think it's clear to everyone that this is really important to you and it's important to us. The land banking issue is one that I would love to talk more with you about. You're right about the funding for it, but it is something that I'm interested in want to just talk more about with you. I don't want to say one way or the other committing the funding and speak in error, to be honest with you. I want to make sure that if I tell you something, it's exactly what I will do. But I am definitely interested in meeting with you, talking more with you about it. And you're right, we have Angie and Ray Skinner on the line, and they may be able to add something to the conversation regarding our efforts there, but I'm totally interested in talking with you and can stop by and see you. Why don't we meet about it and talk more about it?
Sure, County Executive, I'll just add, and happy to be part of any conversation about it. We have spent, so similar to the way that we put forward an operational framework for right of first refusal last year, we are preparing to do that for land banking for this year. It is a framework that will work better with additional funding that helps those transactions proceed. But we are prepared to launch an operational framework for a land banking pilot.
I really appreciate it. And if I could be a part of that group, I certainly would appreciate it. I've spent a lot of years on that and I really would like to assist. Thank you very much, Madam County Executive.
Thank you. And we'll reach back to you, Delegate Holmes, about it. Thank you.
Delegate Williams.
Yes, thank you, Chair Charles. And thank you so much, Madam County Executive. I want to echo the comments of my colleagues about the amazing work that you and your administration is doing. And so thank you so much. Just really 2 matters I just wanted to kind of ask. Well, one, I know you've come out publicly against the Maglev project, and I want to thank you so much for your continued support and concerns with regards to that proposal. One issue has been raised, and I know this is more of a federal issue, but I don't know if it's on your radar or not. And I'm sure the residents, especially in my district, would love to have input from the county executive as well as the county council on it, is that there's been a proposal basically for NASA to sell several forest land that is part of their property to the private market. It's a concern that has been raised up by a number of my constituents in my district. They have been encouraged, and we're reaching out obviously to our federal delegation, to Senator Ben Cardin and Senator Chris Van Hollen, as well as Congressman Hoyer. But I wanted to know if that was on your radar and what, if any position you have and the county council may have, I guess it's to Chairman Hawkins, with regards to the transfer of that federal land to private landholders.
Well, thank you so much, Delegate Williams, and thank you for all your partnership as well. And you know what, this is an issue that has not come to my attention yet. And so it's something that, I would like to explore and we can discuss as well with our federal delegation, but this is the first that I'm hearing of it. So if you would allow us to reach back and get further information, I'd be happy to talk to the federal delegation and then correspond further with you about it. But this is the first time I'm hearing of this. So I thank you for bringing this concern to my attention, and we'll take it down and make sure I'll check back with you about it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Also, Delegate Williams, I'm gonna turn it to Councilmember Turner because we had Senator Van Hollen before us Tuesday and the land load 400, as well as some property over, it's like 3 pieces that you're referencing. And we spoke to him about it. I'm gonna let Councilmember Turner speak more on it. We have, County Exec, we actually have a joint letter draft. It may not have hit your office yet, but discussing our concerns, and Senator Van Hollen. Oh, Mr. Turner, you can speak on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Williams, for the question. Literally, we've been working on this probably in the last week or so as it came to our attention. As the chair indicated, we did have Senator Van Hollen. I understand we just received a copy of a joint letter on behalf of, and we can forward this to our state representatives. I apologize. Today's Friday, so it's catch-up day. So I'll try to get that stuff today. A joint letter, it was only related to the NASA 400 property. However, there are 2.5 properties in Prince George's County that are impacted by this board that made a recommendation at the end of December to transfer these properties in essence for sale. And so that letter related to the NASA 400 property, which is in the near, obviously, Goddard Space Center. And I happen to say both of those properties are in my district. So obviously I've taken a express interest in support of transferring that to the Department of the Environment, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The second property is a 70-acre site at the Glendale Hospital site. It's the USDA plant. That one was also recommended for transfer and sale. There is some interest by the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, particularly with the redevelopment of the Glendale Hospital site and the additional open space that's adjacent to that, to maintaining that in public hands and not for private development necessarily. So we're working on a letter. Madam County Executive literally just sent an email earlier this week to your Chief Administrative Officer and Deputy Chief Administrative Officer, as well as Park and Planning, to make sure we're consistent. So we're prepared to move forward with a letter, and we'll send that obviously to the delegation, so you have that as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Turner. I really appreciate it. Yeah, a number of our constituents would love to see that property maintained as open space and continue to be part of safe environment. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We have a stacked agenda ahead of us. So I'm going to take these last 2 questions from Delegate Walker and Delegate Jones, and then we're going to move forward with the rest of the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nick Charles, congratulations. And good morning, everybody. I like the agenda everybody has, and I love the beautification projects that we are trying to do. However, one thing I'm noticing and want to know how we plan on addressing is I'm noticing an uptick in a lot of illegal dumping within the county in different areas there. Do we have a plan to combat that there? And then, like always, I'll ask the council members as well as my county exec. And my folks have made it loud and clear they want 2-day-a-week trash collection. So where do we stand on that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Delegate Walker. So regarding all 3 issues, the first is the illegal dumping. So we have been working on this. We have cameras that we have placed around the county. These are mobile cameras where we have been capturing some of this activity, and we've actually forwarded a number of those cases to the state's attorney's office to be prosecuted. I think part of the challenge that we've had is that with the impact of COVID, we've seen that a lot of those cases have just stalled in terms of having court dates and everything. And so we have a number of cases that are waiting to be prosecuted. So we are actually we are actually charging in those dumping cases, but we're waiting, for something to happen there. The other thing that we have done is, you may have received a notice. I hope all of you received a notice regarding our additional efforts with bulky trash collections are concerned. Now allowing residents to place 2 bulky trash items out with their regular collection items, so that we are hopefully really kind of gaining steam where that's concerned, so that our residents who have bulky items that they would like to discard don't have to schedule time to have them picked up. They can actually put 2 items per trash collection day out to have them picked up. And we hope that that will also discourage people from getting impatient and going and discarding those items. Regarding the 2-day-a-week trash, I think you're going to hear something, and let me just say extremely soon, regarding the way that we intend to return to 2-day-a-week trash. I'm working with Director Kroon, the Department of Environment, and I'll be sending something out you'll hear about really soon. We want to make sure that whatever we do actually addresses the issue and is done in the most responsible way that we can. And so I think we're going to come up with a plan and discussing it with the council also, so that we can address the 2-day-a-week concern in a way that, again, gets to the root of the problem, allows people to discard food and other trash items, but does so in a really responsible way. So we do have a plan. We're actually meeting again today, believe it or not, about that. And we'll be releasing that plan really soon.
Fair enough, that's cool. Regarding Mr. Fowler, so I didn't know about that, the bulky trash. So I was getting a little concerned because I'm driving home and I'm seeing couches out front of houses. So you can actually leave 2 bulky trash items in front with your regular trash.
And we're picking it up, yes. So that people don't have to wait to schedule those appointments. We're now adding it so that people have the convenience of being able to do that along with their regular trash.
I will share that, thank you.
Thank you. And if you want us to, Delegate Walker, I can send you information to distribute to your, also to your constituents, because we do have notices that we sent out. So I can have someone send those to you to send out.
Appreciate it, thank you, yes.
Thank you.
Delegate Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Madam County Executive and members of the County Council. So good morning. I really like the priorities that you've outlined. I know we've discussed these previously. I just wanted to highlight 2 things. You've talked about the transit priorities, which I think are excellent, but I just want to highlight that some of the disparities that you mentioned, the comorbidities and health disparities and lack of access to transportation, all of those have a great impact on the county, but they have an even greater impact on the people who live in the more rural parts of the county. So in District 27 and parts of District 26, where there are no access to the metro. And so I would really like to discuss with you and your team the possibility of adding to the transportation priorities, expanding the bus routes for, I think it's Route 30 and 36, that would allow more folks the ability to be able to use mass transit, or at least the bus system, to be able to get access to the new healthcare center and access to jobs in the more central part of the county. And I've spoken with members of your team already about the various, so let's say like the mask and test kit giveaways, those things and different food distributions. A lot of those activities or events don't necessarily make it to some of the southern parts of the county, and particularly my district. So there are folks who have interest in being able to participate in those kinds of events and to be able to take advantage of the things that the county is providing, but their access to getting to those kinds of activities is a little bit more limited. Or if you live in Brandywine or Baden, there are folks who maybe can't or don't want to make the 20-minute drive or 25 minutes to Largo, to be able to participate in these kinds of events. So I'd really love to see more of those types of events held in parts of Council District 9. And I know Councilman Harrison has talked about some of these health disparities and things as well. And so I'd really just love to be able to partner with the county to see what we can do to expand and be able to provide more of those services to folks in the more rural parts of the county.
Delegate Jones, thank you so much. That's so valuable, so valuable. So thank you so much for the information. The bus routes that you mentioned, I'm going to have our team connect back with you, because you're absolutely right. It doesn't help us to only focus on transportation that helps people get out of Prince George's County. Part of our priority has been, we have got to improve the way that people are able to travel inside the county. And so that we've been focused on that. with expanding our bus routes. We've added new buses. You've noticed that we've even added some new electric buses. But we have to make sure that we're expanding routes to reach all of our residents. And so if there's an area that we have neglected, I do want to get back in touch with you to hear what those bus routes are, so that we can take action on those. Regarding the services and activities that you mentioned that may not reach as far as Brandywine and other areas, or haven't done so well enough, I would like to have our Office of Community Relations, we're going to reach out to you and talk about the ways that we can do better in that area. So I thank you for bringing that to our attention. We certainly don't want to leave anybody out. It is our intention to reach all of our residents, as best we can. And so I thank you very much for bringing that to our attention so we can work to improve the service delivery there. And we'll have our team will reach back to you and see if we can coordinate some efforts in that area.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Delegate Jones, Sydney Harrison.
Yes, Delegate Jones, thank you. Thank you for raising these concerns and issues about equity in the southern part of Prince George's County. And I know that some of those areas touch even Legislative District 26 and Councilmatic District 8. We have been working with the county executive and the office of the county executive, community relations, and the health department on a lot of the issues that you have raised. I know my office has been very steadfast in making sure that we're able to provide location sites to areas in the South when it comes to food distribution as well. But as you know, when we all communicate, we're able to accomplish great things together. So I'm very appreciative of you bringing these issues up. And I'm sure that, all of us together will come up with a positive solution to meet the challenges of our time. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Last thing, Delegate Jones, you may want to speak too with former council member Monique Anderson Walker.
Together. So I'm very appreciative of you bringing these issues up, and I'm sure that is our time.
Works to set up local routes in areas in her district that was not being serviced, and she probably give you some good ideas in your plan, in your prepared meetings with the counties that can hurt.
Okay, thank you for that recommendation, Mr. Chair. Thank you. And just to
Delegate, I'm sorry.
just to follow up on what Councilman Harrison said, yes, thank you. And again, that's why I mentioned, I know you've been doing, a lot of good work trying to make sure that you've done different health fairs and things at the Southern Area Aquatic Center, and that is a good hub for some of these activities. But I do know that you've been working very diligently on trying to highlight these issues and bring more resources to parts of District 9 that I'm mentioning. So I do appreciate that very greatly.
Thank you, Delegate Jones. And just adding to the issue of transportation, I do know Councilmember Franklin, myself, and Councilmember Chair Hawkins actually were looking at the cost of expanding the bus route in certain areas and location of South County. And so we're looking at it from a budgetary standpoint about what it will cost and then how do we facilitate. So that's where we are with that, but we are looking at different ways to really meet the needs of the individuals, our neighbors in South County. Even if it's through micro transit, we're looking at those too. So we're looking at every avenue for transportation.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to thank the county executive, the vice chair, and the chair of the county council for taking the time to be with us today. Like I said, we have a stacked agenda ahead of us. And so we're going to move on to the pressing work of the delegation. And for all of the outstanding questions, I know our delegation members have ways to contact not only the county exec's office, but the chair and vice chair. So we can get a lot of other questions answered that weren't answered today. So thank you all for coming. We appreciate you.
Chair, may I just thank you before I go? I just want to thank you for all your leadership and thank the entire delegation, if you might allow me just to say thank you so much. I know we've worked hard to even be prepared to move forward, and I do appreciate that. I hope the public knows that the work didn't just start today, that we've worked really throughout the fall. And some of us have talked over the summer to make sure we're prepared for this. So thank you so much. We have the most amazing team. I want y'all to know and be clear about it. There's no team like Team Prince George's, and our residents are really fortunate to have the talent and the experience of this delegation. But I'm just thrilled to work with you. We're open. Please contact us with questions, concerns, suggestions, whatever the case may be. But remember that we're stronger together. And there is no obstacle that we can't conquer if we work together. So let's stick together, row in the same direction as best possible. Again, it doesn't mean we don't disagree, but thank you so much for, for the continued feedback as we want to get this right. And thank you, Chair, again, for the time this morning.
Thank you so much, Madam County Exec. All right, everyone. So we are going to move on to the rest of our agenda. We have 6 bills that made it out of all of the committees today, over this week. So we have a little bit of work to do. So let's move on to these subcommittee reports. We're going to start off with Delegate Diana Fennell, the Chair of the County Affairs. The floor is yours, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Chair and delegation, the County Affairs met on Wednesday, January the 19th. We heard Prince George's County 403-02. What it is Prince George's Corporate Housing Corporation, Condominiums and Homeowners Association Reserve Studies. The bill sponsor is Delegate Homes. This bill is for the purpose of altering language relating to requirement for reserve studies for corporate housing corporations, condominiums, and homeowner associations in Prince George's County to be consistent with the corresponding requirements in the Montgomery County and generally relating to reserve studies of corporate housing in corporations, condominiums, and homeowners associations in Prince George's County. And Mr. Chair, the bill was voted out favorable 4-0. Delegate Holmes, is there anything you want to add before we ask to call for a motion? Delegate Holmes?
Yeah, very briefly.
I'm going through and muting on all 4 pages.
I can't hear.
I'll hold on until someone mutes themselves.
Come on, man.
I'll hold on until someone mutes themselves.
Oh my God.
Marsha's office.
Ms. Coleman, please mute yourself. All right, very briefly, ladies and gentlemen. As you all know, I've had reserve study bills in for multiple years. Each year I have statewide and I have in several years, Prince George's County only. 2 years ago, the Prince George's County Reserve Study Bill got passed. The statewide bill did not get passed. Montgomery County was disturbed because the statewide bill did not get passed. Therefore, Montgomery County Delegate Crutchfield presented their own reserve study bill in hopes that at some point the statewide would get passed. They made an amendment to their bill before it got passed to allow updated studies every 5 years. I adopted their language into the current language that's in the bill right now because an updated study every 5 years is significantly less expensive than having a full study done. And therefore it's less expensive to have a updated study done every 5 years as opposed to my original language, which just said have a reserve study done. That's what this does. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I recommend before we have discussion that we call for a vote in a second, then we can do the discussion. Sir.
Thank you, Delegate Fennell.
Is there a motion? Yes.
Move favorable.
Second.
Okay. Then I see Delegate Valentino Smith has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the work your committee, and thank you, Delegate Holmes. You've worked very hard on this issue. So before we vote, I just wanted to raise 2 things, and I think Delegate Holmes can comment on or anyone else. So I've got some HOAs that have been struggling to be able to meet this requirement. One, because they're smaller HOAs that didn't have the funds to be able to afford the expertise that's needed to do the study. And then two, some that didn't have a lot of assets. I think Delegate Holmes has been talking to them too. In Bel Air Greens, they didn't have a lot of assets, but they still had to spend a lot of money on the study that they didn't have. During COVID and all, they weren't being able to collect a lot of fees and everything. So I think it's an important concept. I understand why Delegate Holmes has been prioritizing it and the delegation's been supporting it. I just am wondering, has anyone else been having problems with their HOAs being able to afford to be able to get this review done and get it done on time? And Delegate Holmes, is this bill addressing those other issues, or is it just doing the idea that you can have an updated study?
You broke up on your last point there.
So right now, this isn't changing anything other than the fact that you have to have.
That's correct. That's
So-
correct. Let me answer. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Now, has anyone else been, I know Delegate Nicole Williams has been involved with the county on the commission, I guess, that looks at this. Has anyone else had HOAs that have been struggling with this to get this very important review done because of finances or the availability of experts? Or Delegate Holmes, have you heard of any?
I have heard of a couple of HOAs that are now in serious default of their reserve studies. And they also are in serious problems with having their, for example, their entrance roads collapsing because they have not funded their reserve studies. If some of you saw a report on Channel 9 News about a 24 unit townhouse community in Prince George's County, and they have not had reserve studies done. And because they have not had reserve studies done, they stand a chance of not being able to access their community because the road is getting ready to collapse. So the usual scenario in terms of reserve studies is like the old filter, the old commercial about oil filters in your car. You either pay me now or you pay me later. There are also communities in Prince George's County where there has been special assessments in the tunes of tens of thousands of dollars. And those special assessments had to be paid within a year because they had no reserve studies. So either, I understand there's some concern about paying reserve studies, but you're either going to pay reserve studies in a pattern, or you're going to be hit with a special assessment. And I'm just trying to preserve the funding so that the citizens do not get hit with these massive funding efforts in a special assessment. That's what this is about.
No, I believe in the integrity of your bill, and keeping Prince George's community sound and infrastructure and everything is so important to the overall. The thing is, and I don't want to belabor this, I've just had some boards that are worried on if they're in violation and haven't been able to get the study done, what the penalties are. And I've had some board members saying that they won't serve on boards because they're worried about the liability if they were on the board and the study didn't get done, and it's going to come back to them. And I'm just, let's vote the bill, but is there something we can do to help these smaller associations and help alleviate, help them get the experts they need, or help subsidize the studies for the poorer ones that can't get it done, and help make sure that people are assured that they serve on boards, that they can continue to serve without risk of liability if the study isn't done. Because I have some board members saying that they don't think the liability insurance are not getting clarity that it will cover them if the study is not done, and they're withdrawing from participating on the boards. That's all.
I don't know of any opportunities to have reserve studies subsidized by any entity at all. I don't know of any.
Thank you, Delegate Holmes. I see Delegate Nicole Williams.
Yes, thank you, Delegate Fennell. I was just going to chime in that the way the law is written, and Delegate Holmes can correct me if I'm wrong, that you don't necessarily have to hire one of the big reserve study specialist companies in order to do the reserve study. If you have a member within your community who is a licensed engineer or an architect, or you can reach out to the our local architects associations and hire just an individual someone who may have a degree in engineering would be sufficient in order to just review what's going on and just provide a written report to the association. That I believe is also sufficient under the law. And so, you know, if there's a community that is only reaching out to some of the larger companies that specialize in this, you know, there are other options, is my understanding, that may be more affordable for some of these smaller communities. The second point I was going to also bring up is that most associations in their governing documents have an indemnification provision, Delegate Valentino Smith, that indemnifies the board for any decisions that they make in their capacity as a member of the board of directors. And so while, yes, they might not move forward as they may be required under the law with proceeding forward with getting the reserve study done, that indemnification provision should shield them personally from any type of liability that may come about if they're acting in their capacity as a member of the board of directors. So I just wanted to raise
Thank
those
you.
2 points and we can move on. Thank you.
Thank you. I did
Delegate.
try to assure them
Thank you,
of
Delegate
that.
Williams. I'm sorry, Delegate Valentino Smith. Did you have your hand raised again?
No, I did try to assure them of that, but there, you know, some people are still very concerned. And so I think overall Delegate Holmes's priorities on this and the importance of it, maybe we just need to work with the county council to develop a brochure for the HOAs that help them through this. If anyone else isn't struggling, I know I have several that are struggling. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chair, there's a motion and there's a second. Can we have a roll call in favor of? It was passed out of committee 4-0 in favor of. Just reminding the delegation.
There's a motion and it has been properly second. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Delegate Williams,
Yes.
Delegate Ivy,
Yes.
Delegate Ben Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Darrell Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Fennell,
Yes.
Delegate Fisher,
Yes.
Delegate Harrison,
Yes.
Delegate Healy, Delegate Holmes,
Aye.
Delegate Howe,
Yes.
Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Landis,
Yes.
Delegate Lehman,
Yes.
Delegate Lewis, Delegate Pena Melnick,
Yes.
Delegate Proctor,
Yes.
Delegate Toles,
Yes.
Delegate Turner,
Yes.
Delegate Valderrama,
I vote aye.
Delegate Valentino Smith,
Yes, and thank you, Delegate Holmes, for your work.
Delegate Walker,
Yes.
Delegate Washington,
Yes.
Chairman Charles.
Yes. Bill passes.
Mr. Chair, the next county affairs meeting will be on January the 26th. We do have one bill that's going to be heard on that day. That's going to be Prince George's 402-22 at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate Fennell, and for all the hard work you guys doing over there in county affairs. We're going to now go on to education with Delegate Susie Proctor, who is chairing that committee. Delegate Proctor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to everyone on the call. The Education Subcommittee met this past Wednesday and discussed 2 bills. The first was PG 503-22, Task Force on the Member and Operation of the current Board of Education. This bill presented many questions and suggestions. There was also a recommendation from the sponsors and the committee that we work with the county committee that is also studying this issue and bring forward a united front. So we will be discussing it again at the next meeting. PG 50522, non-school use of public school facilities. This bill too was questioned because there are already, as was discussed, guidelines in place for the use of non-school, for use of non-school use of public facilities. And the question was basically, why do we have a need for this particular bill? So at the next meeting, we will receive data from the school system in the county and be able to vote and move forward. Our next meeting is this coming Wednesday, January 26th. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. We will now move on to law enforcement. Delegate Mary Lehman, who is chairing that committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Law Enforcement Committee met for the first time yesterday, Thursday. We considered 2 bills and we did adopt one. And that bill is Prince George's County alcoholic beverages transfer of a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license. The bill number is PG 302-22, sponsored by Delegate Lewis. Brief summary is the Board of License Commissioners of Prince George's County may not approve a new license with an off-sale privilege or approve the transfer of a license with an off-sale privilege into a part of the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, or 47th alcoholic beverage districts in Prince George's County. The bill provides for an exception for the prohibition by allowing the board to approve the transfer of a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license into those specified districts if there is no Class A beer, wine, and liquor license operating within 1 mile of the premises. The Law Enforcement Committee voted favorably 6-0 for the bill. And I would like to make a motion favorable.
Second.
Second. The bill has been properly motioned and seconded. Are there any discussions on this particular bill?
Yes.
Delegate Walker.
Thank you. Just for clarity, Delegate Lehman, I understand your premise. I'm just trying to understand exactly what this bill is doing again a little bit. I think, can I just get more clarity on it? And if the sponsor wants to do it, I'll take that too.
Yes, I'd
Delegate
like
Lewis.
Mr. Lewis to
Sure.
take that. Thank you.
Sure thing. So as the committee knows, we've been talking about this issue for a number of years, and we've been taking the feedback you guys have to refine the bill. The first thing out the gate, we separated the 2 issues that were together last year. So this bill doesn't deal with grocery stores having beer and wine licenses or anything at all, right? We decided to separate them. We do have an issue of over-concentration of stores that were landlocked for so long. And based on the work group that this body commissioned and CDC studies, it causes blight in the whole 9. So instead of going the route we did before with all these density zones that I think, was getting a little too scientific, I worked with the liquor board, and he said a much more easier tool would be essentially you can transfer across legislative district lines now, but you can't go anywhere where there's another store within a mile radius on top of the other restrictions that are already in place. It's not compulsory. The idea is that as newer developments are coming online, they can move into those places. It doesn't change the total number of stores at all. There's no change in the total number of stores. We don't limit them. We don't affect them. It just gives it long-term the ability for them to start to lessen their density, particularly in certain parts of the county that's really bad.
So if I may, it's just more of a mobility. So we're not increasing lights, it's mobility. So you got it, you want to move from one part of town to the other, you can.
That's right.
Unless there's that 1 mile radius thing. I'm sure there was some talk about that. Was that agreed upon something? Radius that you all came up with, or?
So that was the language I asked the liquor board on what would be the most actionable thing for that they could use like in the field, and they said that they could easily determine from any location you say if it's a mile from another store, do like Google Maps or other things like that, and just the zones that we had before, I think it's exploding everybody's head. But they said that was what was useful for them, so that's the measure I went with.
Are there any other questions?
Delegate Walker,
Delegate
I
Valderrama,
thought Delegate,
you're on mute.
I didn't see my raised hand, but anyway. I'm not sure if Delegate Walker asked it, and Delegate Lewis, I thought I heard Chairwoman Lehman mention district numbers. Were those exemptions, or did I mishear that?
Yeah, so currently every store is landlocked into the district that they're in, so you can move, for example, a store in Beltsville can move from Beltsville to Laurel, but they couldn't move to Upper Marlboro if they wanted to, if there's a business opportunity or anything like that, they can't. You're stuck within your legislative district. Same applies to the 24th. You can move from Fairwood to Capitol Heights or vice versa, or in your district from Fort Washington to maybe Akakeek. But if there's more growth in one area of the county where you want to move, you just can't. So the big issue is that historically it made sense for them all to be concentrated where they were, because that's where the population center for the county was. Sorry, can you hear me? I saw you lean forward. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. I can.
No, okay. Over time, the population center has moved to the outer beltway, but all the stores, the vast majority of stores are still where they're at. So this allows for over time, gradually stores can, if there's a business sense for them to move where they want to go, if it is not within a mile radius of another store, as well as schools and the other limitations that already exist, then they have the possibility of relocating there.
Thank you.
Delegate Washington.
Yeah, just real quick in support of the bill, I think this just really resolves the issue. Also, in addition to what Delegate Lewis is saying, it resolves the issue of some of these liquor stores or some of the stores coming to us as a delegation, asking us for an exception of a piece of legislation to help them move out to wherever, or to create a new license for this new development happening. Instead, with this legislation, we can encourage current business owners that are in some of these highly dense areas that where there are way too many of these licenses to move out to those other areas for new opportunities and new benefits. So I'm in support of it, and with that said, I move favorable on the bill, if that hasn't happened yet.
Second.
Roll call.
Delegate Williams,
Yes.
Delegate Ivy,
Yes.
Delegate Ben Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Darrell Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Fennell,
Yes.
Delegate Fisher,
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. Yes.
Delegate Harrison,
Yes.
Delegate Healy,
Aye.
Delegate Holmes,
Aye.
Delegate Howe,
Yes, please.
Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Landis,
Aye.
Delegate Lehman,
I vote aye.
Delegate Lewis,
Aye.
Delegate Pina Melnick,
Yes.
Delegate Proctor,
Yes.
Delegate Tolles,
Yes.
Delegate Turner,
Yes.
Delegate Valderrama,
Aye.
Delegate Valentino Smith, Delegate Walker,
Yes.
Delegate Washington,
And there's so many new names out here in this delegation. Yes.
Chairman Charles.
Yes. The ayes have it. Bill passes.
Thank you, delegation.
You didn't come back to me.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the report of the Law Enforcement Committee.
I didn't get a chance to vote. How are we moving on?
I think Delegate Barnes wants to be reported in the favorable.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Coleman, please record Delegate Barnes unfavorable.
Yes.
All right. Does that conclude the report? Delegate Lehman?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that concludes the report. We'll meet again next Thursday at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Now we will move on to Bi-County Affairs, which is led up by Delegate Chris Valderrama as our chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members. Bi-County met yesterday morning at 9 a.m. We moved out 4 proposals, 4 bills, which are PGMC 100, 101, 105, 106, all which have been initiated out of Montgomery County. All 4 bills were moved out favorably, 5-0. The first bill is PGMC 100. Just a brief background, that is the Maryland Park and Planning Commission, Montgomery County, County Council, and District Council voting thresholds. It increases some voting thresholds necessary for Montgomery County or the Montgomery County District Council to take certain actions related to park and planning. So basically it increased from 7 to 9, the number of affirmative votes for members of Montgomery County Council. It increased from 6 to 8, the number of affirmative votes by members of the Montgomery County Council that are necessary to designate a commissioner. It also increases from 6 to 8, the number of affirmative votes by members of the Montgomery County Council necessary to authorize without approval of the county exec, and also increases from 6 to 8, the number of affirmative votes by members of the county council needed to amend a 6-year capital improvement program. All of this, which affects Montgomery County. This was, as I mentioned, moved out 5-0 unanimously. If there was a motion and a second, I'd like to move favorable on this bill.
Move favorable.
Second.
Second.
On a motion, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there isn't any, roll call.
Delegate Williams,
Yes.
Delegate Ivy,
Yes.
Delegate Ben Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Darrell Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Fennell,
Yes.
Delegate Fisher,
Yes.
Delegate Harrison,
Yes.
Delegate Healy,
Yes.
Delegate Holmes,
Aye.
Delegate Howe,
Yes.
Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Landis,
Aye.
Delegate Lehman,
Aye.
Delegate Lewis,
Aye.
Delegate Pina Melnick,
Aye, and just for the record, my son is driving and he knows now more about Prince George's county bills than he needed to.
Delegate Proctor,
Yes.
Delegate Tolles,
Yes.
Delegate Turner,
Yes.
Delegate Valderrama,
Aye.
Delegate Valentino Smith, Delegate Walker,
Yes.
Delegate Washington, Chairman Charles.
Aye. The ayes have it. The bill passes.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Pina Milnick, for clarifying that you are not the one driving, because I was going to say you're multitasking too much there. The second bill, Mr. Chairman, is PGMC 101, which is Montgomery County Planning Board open meetings regarding video and audio streaming minutes. I will clarify that there's no prior introduction to this bill, but this bill is very similar to Chapter 291 from last year. which among other things, it established comparable open meeting requirements for the WSSC. This bill was also voted at unanimously by county 5-0, and it just established additional opening meeting requirements for the Montgomery County Planning Board. I'd like to move favorable on this bill.
Second.
Bill has been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there isn't any, roll call.
Delegate Williams,
Yes.
Delegate Ivy,
Yes.
Delegate Ben Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Darrell Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Fennell,
Yes.
Delegate Fisher,
Yes.
Delegate Harrison,
Yes.
Delegate Healy,
Aye.
Delegate Holmes,
Aye.
Delegate Howe,
Yes.
Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Landis,
Aye.
Delegate Lehman,
Aye.
Delegate Lewis,
Aye.
Delegate Pena Melnick,
Yes.
Delegate Proctor,
Yes.
Delegate Tolles,
Yes.
Delegate Turner,
Yes.
Delegate Valderrama,
Aye.
Delegate Valentino Smith, Delegate Jay Walker,
Yes.
Delegate Washington, Chairman Charles,
Yes. The ayes have it and the bill passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The third bill, and I should preface that all four bills that we took up all are supported by Park and Planning and WSSC for the respective agencies that these bills are associated with. The third bill is PGMC 105 WSSC. It's their MBE utilization program. They're under current law, their minority business enterprise program is to sunset this year, July 1st of 2022. This bill simply extended the sunset to one more year, which is July 1st, 2023. This was moved out favorably, 5-0 by county. I'd like to move favorable on this bill, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Bill has been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion? Hearing
I
that
just had
there's
a
no.
quick question. My hand was up.
Oh, there you go, Delegate Fisher.
Yes, I'm Delegate Valderrama, this is maybe
Yes.
for you or maybe for Chairman Barnes. How was the testimony that the MB that the program or the structure of it has been successful and going well as you renew it or extend it beyond its sunset?
Well, during our Zoom yesterday, I wouldn't say there was extensive conversation on it. Mr. Guyandes was there to represent and simply said they were just asking for. Now, if Vice Chair has a correction for me, please, but I do not recollect, or from the members otherwise, if the members have info as well, but there was no one way or the other, or that it was not running well or running well. It was just simply a request for one more year. And please, yes,
Madam
please.
Chair.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Please.
Delegate Haley was going to speak.
I was just going to say, I think the issue is that the study has not been completed to make it a 5-year extension. So they need a 1-year extension to finish the study so that they can do the 5-year extension next time.
Thank you,
Thank you, Delegate Haley.
There any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Delegate Williams,
Yes.
Delegate Ivy,
Yes.
Delegate Ben Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Darrell Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Fennell,
Yes.
Delegate Fisher,
Yes.
Delegate Harrison,
Yes.
Delegate Healy,
Aye.
Delegate Holmes,
Aye.
Delegate Howe,
Yes.
Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Landis,
Aye.
Delegate Lehman,
Aye.
Delegate Lewis,
Aye.
Delegate Pena Melnick,
Yes.
Delegate Proctor,
Yes.
Delegate Tolles,
Yes.
Delegate Turner,
Yes.
Delegate Valderrama,
Aye.
Delegate Walker,
Yes.
Delegate Washington, Chairman Charles.
Yes. Bill passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last bill on the agenda for Bi-County is PGMC 106 WSSC. It's regarding their hiring and promotion preferences for veterans and spouses. This bill was moved out favorably 5-0 as well. The bill repeals a current provision of law related to previously repealed statutory law that required the WSSC to hold exams to establish a list of individuals eligible for appointment to vacancies. So rather now the bill authorizes WSSC to grant a preference in hiring and promotion to an eligible veteran, the spouse of an eligible veteran who has a service-connected disability, or the surviving spouse of a deceased eligible veteran. If there's more clarification needed, happy to do so and provide this moved out favorable 5-0 and would urge a favorable report on this bill.
Second.
Bill has been moved and properly second. Are there any discussions?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to add that this bill just aligns with state hiring practices for veterans according to the request of the WSSC.
Thank you, Delegate Harrison. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Delegate Williams,
Yes.
Delegate Ivy,
Yes.
Delegate Ben Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Darrell Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Fennell,
Yes.
Delegate Fisher,
Yes.
Delegate Harrison,
Yes.
Delegate Healy, Delegate Holmes,
Aye.
Delegate Howe,
Yes.
Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Landis,
Aye.
Delegate Lehman,
Aye.
Delegate Lewis,
Aye.
Delegate Pena Melnick,
Yes.
Delegate Proctor,
Yes.
Delegate Tolles,
Yes.
Delegate Turner,
Yes.
Delegate Valderrama,
Aye.
Delegate Walker,
Yes.
Delegate Washington, Chairman Charles.
Yes. The ayes have it and the bill passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes the report for Bi-County. We plan to meet next Thursday morning. What is that, the 27th at 9 a.m. on Zoom, but I do encourage members and those who will be visiting us on Zoom to check the website because changes are happening. We try to be consistent. So thank you to the members and Vice Chair Harrison.
Thank you so much for all the committee chairs and for helping us get these bills out so we can keep the ball moving for the delegation. We're going to head on to delegation business now before we adjourn. And as you all know, we've had some discussion. There are some bills that came in late. So we have to vote on the late file bill hearing. And so the recommendation that was put forth is having the bill hearing on February 7th at 5 p.m. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And motion and properly second. Is there any discussion?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, did you mention a time or just the date?
It was February 7th at 5 p.m.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Delegate Holmes.
Yeah, I just want to get a point of clarification. We're voting to accept late file bills. Is that correct?
We're voting to accept the late
Thank you.
file bills and to have the hearing on February 7th at 5 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Delegate Haley?
I just want to make sure we were suspending the rules in order to do this. Therefore, we need 16 votes in the delegation.
Thank you, Delegate Haley. So is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Delegate Williams,
Yes.
Delegate Ivy,
Yes.
Delegate Ben Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Darrell Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Fennell,
Yes.
Delegate Fisher,
Yes.
Delegate Harrison,
Yes.
Delegate Healy,
Aye.
Delegate Holmes,
Pass.
Delegate Howe,
Yes.
Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Landis,
Aye.
Delegate Lehman,
Aye.
Delegate Lewis,
Aye.
Delegate Pena Melnick,
Yes.
Delegate Proctor,
Yes.
Delegate Tolles,
Yes.
Delegate Turner,
Yes.
Delegate Valderrama,
Aye.
Delegate Walker,
Yes.
Delegate Washington, Chairman Charles.
All right. So we have 21 votes to suspend the rules. And so now we can go into actually moving forward with the motion to accept the late file bills and accept the hearing date for February 7th at 5 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Already been moved.
Been moved and properly second. Bill, to move forward on voting for this. Roll call.
Delegate Williams,
Yes.
Delegate Ivy,
Yes.
Delegate Ben Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Darrell Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Fennell,
Yes.
Delegate Fisher,
Yes.
Delegate Harrison,
Yes.
Delegate Healy,
Pass. Please come
Delegate
back to me.
Holmes,
Yes.
Delegate Howe,
Yes. Can you hear me? Yes.
yes, yes. Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Landis,
Aye.
Delegate Lehman,
I vote aye.
Delegate Lewis,
Aye.
Delegate Pena Melnick,
Yes.
Delegate Proctor,
Yes.
Delegate Tolles,
Yes.
Delegate Turner,
Yes.
Delegate Valderrama,
Aye.
Delegate Walker,
Yes.
Delegate Washington, Chairman Charles.
I need to vote. Please come back to me. I passed. I wish to vote aye.
Delegate.
Okay,
If
All
I
right,
may,
the ayes.
Mr. Chair, I did not have an opportunity to vote either. I vote aye.
Thank you, Delegate Holmes. Thank you, Delegate Haley. The ayes have it. So it is official. We will be having our public hearing on February 7th at 5 p.m. With the late file bills. And they will be presented to the public beforehand, so everyone has the opportunity to view these bills. We will now adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.